Alright, g'day there. Richard Musgrave-Evans here again, and welcome back. Now today, back in the studio and back painting from a smaller plein air study. So I've been out in the field, done some nice fleeting moments of sunrises, sunsets in the Flinders Ranges, beautiful stuff. Now what I'm going to do is enlarge it. Okay, so my choice of subject today is Mount Chambers Gorge. It's a beautiful section of the Flinders Ranges. What you've got there is you've got the contrast between the ancient landscape itself, then you've got beautiful modern colours, combinations of warm and cool colours, vast distances near to far, and of course just the ancient seabed itself, the fact that it used to be an ancient seabed with different sediments that have all upheaved over the years. And if you look along the rock beds, you can see all the subtle different colours. Just being out there really refreshes the artistic batteries and gets you ready to go home from the plein air studies, like I said, and paint a fleeting moment or whatever else you've chosen. And in this particular case, it's going to be the last few minutes of light that you get right at the end of the day, that beautiful magic hour. All right, pretty excited about this one. Let's get into it. All right, so basically what I've done here is I've got a white canvas and I've primed it just with a thin gum terps and raw sienna and alizarin crimson, just to give it a nice translucent warm tone, the basic undercolour of the outback. Just want a bit of variety today, so I thought I'd do that. Now I've just lightly sketched in blue. First I did it up here, thought no, I want to change the composition before it's locked in. Just redraw it a little lower. So now what I'll do is start getting as much stuff in as quick as I can. All right. One thing before I go any further. Viridian green, magenta, cobalt blue, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cad orange, cad yellow, yellow ochre, titanium white. All right, now that should get all the colours I need. All right, I'll start off with some of the darkest darks. So we'll get some alizarin crimson, maybe a little bit of that cobalt blue, just set off a real dark. And I'll just drop some darks in or around about here. Just fill a few darks in, not too many, just feel your weight. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the darks. Now I'll start banging in some other stuff. I might just get a little bit more alizarin crimson because I was a bit stingy. Alright, I might get some magenta. Just going to mix up a light tone. So I've got magenta, titanium white. Just mix up a nice brew of that. Mix, mix, mix. Now, this is going to be the last light, that beautiful last glow that you get across the ranges. So the ranges will be standing in golden light and the sun's setting. And so you've got the band of light, you've got the light, sun from behind me, striking the hills, the shadows are creeping up. And there'll be those beautiful bands of colours as the sun is setting. So, setting behind, but those beautiful bands. And what you actually get is you get these different layers of colours as the sun's going down behind you. And eventually once the sun sets, then you start to get a blue band, then magenta and whatever it goes up. And that blue is actually the shadow of the earth. Right, so let's get into this magenta. Okay, just go by the width. Yeah, about that. That's about the right one. I'll just get that in there. It's interesting painting on different colours all the time. Like I said, today I'm painting on this prime surface. Sometimes I'm painting on pure white. Sometimes I'm painting on the raw Belgian linen, or a clear primed raw Belgian linen. Just doing it for a bit of variety in the work, etc. Right, so I'm just hitting right about horizon line with this beautiful magenta colour. Yeah, just keep referring to the plein air study for what I want. I'm pretty happy with what I did on the day of the plein air study, so that's why I'm using it as a reference because to me it's pretty spot on to what I want. I just feel the range, that range kicks in, bows up, bows around. Absolutely fantastic time of day. Beautiful time of day when anything is possible. Pure magic. Alright, so we've got a nice band of magenta. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll go up a layer. So I'll go titanium white again. And I get some beautiful burnt sienna with that one. Doesn't matter if there's a bit of magenta left on the knife, that's alright. In fact, I might use a little more. Right, okay, now we're going to need some more paint. White. Just a little bit more for burnt sienna. Just feeling it as I go. Now we got that in the page. Hang on, hang a sec. Just move this across. That's better. Now you can see the paint. Good. Burnt sienna and white. Beautiful stuff. All right, let's do this. Okay. Just get a bit of feedback as to that colour tone. Okay, yeah, that can go on. Just the value of it against that board. Ever so slightly harder to judge that brown because I've already got a darker brown behind it. Colours always look different depending what they're sitting on. Right, that goes there. Goes there. So if they're sitting on white, for example, this brown would look very dark sitting on white. But if this was sitting on, say, a black surface, it would look super light. So everything's relative. Your eyes adjust accordingly, so you don't want to get tricked. But generally I find if you paint on a darker surface, darker than white, you tend to paint the whole painting in a slightly lower key, which is good because that gives you a little bit more room for accents. When you paint on white, you've got to make sure you've got everything pulled down deep enough in tone so you've got room for your accents to really pump. So in some ways, painting on a surface like this, where it's quite dark, will encourage me to go slightly deeper in tone, which is a good thing. When I mean deeper, I mean slightly darker in the tonal value, a little bit closer to black. All right, let's get this beautiful yellow ochre and white. That stuff, I just love yellow ochre. Look at that stuff. It's just a natural earthy colour, beautiful colour. And you're going to get plenty of that. Throw it on. See if we've got the right tonal value here. I reckon it could go a little bit more of the yellow ochre. So it's slightly darker in tone. Oh, geez, I've got bucket loads of the stuff. I might just compare it for a minute. I'm just actually sticking it up against the original piece to make sure I'm sitting somewhere near the tonal value I want. And that looked about right. Now it's bung plenty of that on. Nothing better than playing with tons and tons of thick, juicy oil paint. It's fantastic. Okay, so that's going on nicely. All right, now let's go up another layer. So we'll go to those greens. Slight green you get in the sky at this time of day after the yellow ochre. So we'll go viridian green, yellow ochre, and of course plenty of white. A little bit more viridian green and yellow ochre. Slightly less white, in other words. That's not a bad little colour. Let's have a look. Slap that on. Slap, slap. Hang on. A little bit more of the green and the yellow ochre. That's about it, alright. Beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. Beautiful broken colour sitting next to each other, look at that. That's lovely stuff. Okay. Wipe that knife clean. Try and get as much paint off the knife first. I don't want to waste too much paint. Alright, so the next layer will be totally different. I'll get the cobalt blue. Where will I mix up this brew? Cobalt blue, let's do it just here. With a bit of magenta, so it's a slight red. Of course, you're going to need white. Cobalt blue, magenta. Sometimes half mixing that's alright. Let's have a look. What colour or tone have we got here? That's a big jump. Very big jump. But that could be completely fine. Just keep putting that on. Keep going with that one. That warm orange against that blue, the undertone orange, against that blue is the opposite of the colour wheel, and it's really popping when they're sitting next to each other, which is a nice thing. Just going to stand back and analyse that for a minute. Alright, yeah, not too bad. Bring it down, bring it down. Okay, what I might do is, I'll start just blending. I've got all those tones, I've got all those tonal values all in, those colours in, sitting next to each other. I might just do a little bit of blending with the knife now, so I've cleaned the knife completely. Right. I'm going to introduce that burnt sienna down into that magenta. Like so. Alright. Now bring that yellow ochre down into the burnt sienna. Just little marks with a big knife, little marks with a big knife. Excuse me. It's blending nicely. Wipe that one clean. Alright, what do we got here? Let's put that green into that yellow ochre. Blend those two. Kind of like the chunk style that you get when you blend it on the canvas itself. There's something nice about the quality of the paint when it's blended on the canvas. It gives it a lot of broken colour as they dance together. Whoops. Alright, let's get that blue and bring it in. Pull that blue down before your forearm burns out with RSI. Repetitive strain injury. Okay, getting there, getting there. Just wipe a bit of that off. Alright, what do we got going on here? Let's pull some of that clean blue down. just get the knife absolutely clean and pull it down and just dance it around a bit. That's really, pull it clean like so, and just really blending them into each other now. Right, well, got the big guns out, the big knife. So this one's huge. What is this? PK13 Art Spectrum. Fantastic. Right, so this will be great for such a big painting, helping to blend those colours. Beautiful big knife. Just pulls them together nicely. So that they don't stare looking at each other, they just become beautiful and harmonised. Alright, we've got a lot of the sky blocked in now. Let's get some of that foreground in, and then we'll work with the beautiful light on the mountains themselves after that. Alright, so let's go, what we're going to do, burnt sienna I reckon, and a bit of cobalt blue, a bit of white to lighten the tone, a bit more cobalt blue. Let's just have a look what we've got here. Of green, I might just go a bit more burnt sienna, a little bit of magenta as well, a little bit more white to lighten the tone, a bit of magenta and a bit of white with that added in, just slightly lighter tonal value now. Let's have a look. Something like that. Just put that in to start with. Now, of course, I didn't make enough, did I? So hang on, here we go again. White, magenta, blue, a bit more blue. Just making it up as I go. I feel like it needed a bit more viridian green and magenta combo, so that's really knocking it back, putting it into one of those deep, shadowy tones. Because I'm trying to key it down so I can really get the accent standing out of the hills glowing themselves. So by lowering the key of the foreground, we can do that. Alright, so we're getting there. Now how high are we going to bring that up? A bit more white, more burnt sienna, viridian green, bit of magenta. Half mix those colours so I get beautiful effects. Alright. Where's that sunset going to come up to? Around about there. So getting there. Let's just get that colour on. Let's have a look at that. Alright, viridian green, magenta, white, viridian green, white, magenta. Just put in a few lighter tones and cooler colours right where this shadow starts to meet where the sunlight's about to hit. Viridian greens again, a little bit of those sky blues also sitting there. I'll throw a few of those in. So just cooling the edge of the shadow a bit. Alright. Some of those cooler tones. Alright, what do we got? Viridian green again. Only a little bit of this and that here and there. Right. Looks good. That's all coming along there. Now what am I going to do? Let's get some more of that magenta. Bit of white. Constantly moving around. What are we going to do here? Just going to add a little bit of magenta here with the white in it. The idea of that, it'll help blend the two colours together where the rich, strong light source is hitting and where it's half shadow there, bit of a blend. Alright, we've played enough of that game. Let's get into putting some light on, shall we? The fun part. Alright, let's go a bit of cad. That is a bright colour. I might throw a little bit of yellow ochre in that. A little bit of white. They're cad colours mainly. Cad yellow. That is a bright colour. Let's have a look. Right. Just add a little bit more of the orange to darken the tone ever so slightly. Before I do, where's the other knife? Just noticed that I've come down a little bit low for the sky here, so I'm actually just going to scrape a little bit of that light tone off. I'm using the underside of the knife. I just don't want too much of that light tone to mix with this colour I'm about to put on, so put that like so. See where does you go? Cad orange, yellow ochre. Sorry, not yellow ochre, cad yellow. Right. Place that beautiful stuff on. We're getting those cad colours on now, really high key stuff. Just here we're going to need a... Tell you what I'll do. Crazy as it sounds, I might just go for a slightly smaller knife. Get some of that paint off there. All the cad colours and tones. That is stinging. That is beautiful. Beautiful and rich. I'll just Just place some of them in. Stand back and see what we're getting here, eh? Alright, that's alright. Let's just get a bit more yellow ochre, the ochre colour, with the white and the cad orange. A bit more yellow ochre. Just a little bit earthier and less of those really bright colours. Just going to place a bit of that in here. Get a bulk of paint going. Right, yellow, white, yellow and white, really high key colour. Beautiful. Now that's good stuff, that is good stuff. Right, that can go here. Save that beautiful colour for this piece here. Bit of a keynote there. Those beautiful colours. White cad, so it's light. I'm using the cad yellow here instead of the orange with the white, bit more white, so it's a lighter tonal value. Varying all the colours and tones the way the light's hitting the hill. What do we got here? Getting there, getting there. Right, we'll keep on going. Let's have a look. Alright, starting to get some action happening here now, some beautiful colours and tones. You're starting to feel the light hitting the hill and you can see all the foreground shadow leading in. Right, so, saying all that, let's just get some beautiful Viridian. We've got some Viridian green here, mixed with white. Now I'm just going to pick out some really electric brightness here. Just make sure I get that colour and tone right. Just want to pick out a little bit here and there. Some of the contours starting to come into light and shadow. Really sting it up a bit. Really start to feel the light then. A little bit more cobalt blue mixed in, that doesn't hurt anyone. you get the real contrast when the lights at this time of day. The glow and the orange, and the intensity and the high key of that orange is absolutely insane. But any sort of shadow that's next to it is even more insane. Like, it's just so high key and bright. That's what I'm putting in now. Just lightly dancing the knife. Now these colours are the complementary colour, they're the opposite on the colour wheel. So if I smudge them, that orange and that blue, those two warm and cool colours will turn to grey. So I'm just laying them on top rather than smudging too much. It's electrifying. Getting there, getting there. Stand back and see what I've got. Alright, now that seems to be really working, those beautiful colours, those beautiful high key colours right next to my beautiful cad colours. So it's a combination of cad yellow, cad red, cadmiums with a little bit of white, so it's a very high key warm colour and tone. And then you go the opposite side of the colour wheel and get all the cool colours, the blues, the greens, the magentas, place them next to, don't smudge them, just place them. And it's just dances, it absolutely dances on the surface. So it's dancing around. So I'm half mixing the cobalt blue just lightly putting some really cool colours and tones in here in the foreground. To really give feel to it. So in these shadows we've got all the cool tones really contrasting the light source. Okay. Now, call me crazy, call me insane, but that is what you call a tiny palette knife. Let's use that one just to knock in some of these beautiful little bits on the hill here. It never ceases to amaze me how much that pops when you stick it on next to it. It's just insane. And it really starts to give the illusion of detail by sticking these little things in here. It really starts to give the feeling of the contours and everything like that. So we'll just keep on going with that for now. Where are we here? All right. All right, well, I'm getting pretty excited about what's going on here. That is exactly what I was after. The little plein air study's got all that energy of that last fleeting moment. And I feel like this is just really, on the larger scale, has really brought that out and just powering. So pretty happy about that. Now what I'm going to do is, just because you never finish anything until you finish something else, so we're just going to go around, just blend that sky a little bit so those tones, colours and tones, are coming a little bit more into each other, so they're not just staring at each other, they would naturally blend. To be more of a blend between the two rather than just a chunk, so let's just bring them in, eh? Bring them in. It gives you that feeling. That feeling of broken colour. Little bits, gives the illusion of detail, like I'm using a big knife, but little broad marks, broad but little, and all these colours dancing next to each other. It makes you feel like there's a lot more going on than there actually is. So when you look at it, you can see all these little details around the place, but they're not quite as much detail. It's an illusion of detail, which is a fantastic thing. All right, well, I'm pretty happy with what's going on now. I really feel like I've reeled the painting in and achieved the original impression of what I was after. Now I've moved the little plein air painting up the top so you guys can see it in the same shot. I had it over there when I was painting because it was kind of out of the shot. I wanted to see the palette at the same time. So now I can push the palette out of the way and we can have a look at both the pictures at once. Now the idea of the original impression was just to capture that fleeting moment, that last 30 seconds of light that you get at the end of the day. And once I'd done the painting, I was really happy with it and I felt like I'd captured something, but I felt like I wanted to enlarge on that thing, and it's exactly what I've done here. So the beauty of painting the little on-site painting, excuse me, is that because it's so small, you haven't got a lot of room to put all the details in. All you can do is put the major block colours and tones of that essence of that time of day. Now I find enlarging that can be really interesting. Instead of working from a photo and putting every little bit of detail as the painting gets bigger, what you do is you enlarge that original small impression and keep it blocky and keep it based on the same theory of just capturing the essence of the landscape. So when you look at the bigger version, there's something modern about it, I guess. It's kind of blocky and abstract, but at the same time still real. And so you've peeled away all the inessential details and you've gotten right to the centre of the core of the subject. At the same time, I've really played up on some of the stuff that I like. So in that painting, say, some beautiful colours in the sky and whatever. And in the bigger version, I really wanted to play up on that. So I've gone particularly blocky and broken the colour with a lot of little marks. So even though I'm using a big knife, I'm using a lot of marks where the paint's sitting next to each other, different colours, warm and cool and whatever else. So you've got all the layers, but then you've got beautiful magentas with the pale green blues all sitting next to each other. And if you've got a brush and blended it, they'd kind of mute together and go softer. But the idea here is you keep them broken and colourful next to each other, and when you stand back, they melt together in the viewer's eye. So I feel like that's added extra detail. Being a bigger painting, it's given the extra thing to look at without going into detail itself. And with the last light and the shadow creeping over, of course I've got that glow. Now that is an orange and a yellow and whatever else. Now, at that time of day, when you do get that late light, particularly in the clear outback atmosphere like this, those colours are so intense and they're all the yellows, the oranges and reds. And in reality, when there's a little bit of shadow on the glowing hill itself, you do get the complementary colour, the opposite side of the colour wheel. So you will get those blues, greens and mauves and whatever in the shadow. And the more intense the sunlight and the orange, the more intense the colour of the shadow. And that's just reality, that's how it really looks. So that's fantastic for an artist like myself, a colourist who loves to play with colour. So you can really pop it up and it almost gives it a floor. The paint almost looks fluorescent, like it just looks like it's glowing. Now in the foreground here, in the shadows, what I tried to do there was really play up on plenty of activity. There's a lot of subtle colours going on, even though it's very generalised and out of focus, but it just adds interest, particularly when you get up close. There's a lot of pretty rainbow effects of colours and whatever. So on the whole, I'm pretty happy with what's going on. Now what we'll do is, we'll get that camera off, we'll have a buzz around at both the paintings, and we'll check out the technique up close. All right, thank you.